the Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Mohammad Ziauddin Saab, my friend Professor Akbar Zaidi from Institute of Business Administration, Professor Zukowski, the Rector of University of Varnia, ladies and gentlemen, our Polish guests, Polish diplomats, Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be here to recognize the fact that there is developing cooperation in the scientific area between Pakistan and Poland. Not only in the scientific area, but in the sense the recognition of the fact that the world is changing. And as the world is changing, what can be the role of countries like Poland and Pakistan and possible cooperation between our two countries? As mention was made by about the fact that a bunch of outstanding Polish Air Force pilots joined Pakistan Air Force in the 50s. They became our heroes. They were responsible for setting up the Pakistan Air Force. And one of them, Air Commodore Turovitz, became the head of Suparco also. And if you go to some places in Pakistan, there are streets named after them. And probably, I believe very strongly, some of them married in Pakistan also. Some of the Polish pilots married in Pakistan also. And I suggested to the Polish ambassador that some work has to be done to trace those families as well, because that's a golden part of our Polish and Pakistan cooperation. Should not be forgotten. Personally, I had no idea about it until in the recent years I was exposed to that outstanding cooperation between Polish officers and the Pakistan Air Force. So thank you, Poland, for all that happened during that era. The topic of the conference, of course, is Pakistan-Poland relations and opportunities and challenges in the changing world. It is understood that things are happening. It's a kaleidoscope of change which is happening throughout the world, reshifting of alliances. We have always seen that. We have seen the reshifting of alliances in the last 300-400 years, 500 years. There was an effort made in Europe for peace, very significant effort made in Europe, and after the 30 Years' War and the 100 Years' War, an effort was made with the two treaties of Westphalia, where it was decided that the nation state is the future and that the power of the gun would rest with the nation state, and the borders of nation states would be recognized. That concept has stood the test of time for the last 300-400 years, 500 years. But today we are being exposed to another challenge where borders are becoming irrelevant in a number of situations. Borders are becoming irrelevant. And the force of the gun is also becoming irrelevant. There are there are a number of situations which I can point out. I believe that the institutions formed in consequence for what was the warring countries of Europe, which brought about peace, including an effort by the League of Nations and then an effort by the United Nations. These institutions are fossilized in some way, in the sense that they have not been able to recognize or accommodate the changing realities of the world. One of the biggest examples is environment. It's cross-border. It has nothing to do with a little to do with the nation states, but it is cross-border. And imagine the fact that Pakistan recently has been affected by floods, to which Pakistan is making a statement that we are not even responsible for 1% of global warming, while we are suffering a consequence of the global warming which has happened in the developed countries. Now, the fact that this should be recognized, the fact that challenges are going to be cross-national. So the approaches have to become cross-national. So only don't limit yourself to global warming. The impact of environmental changes on animal life, for example, on the species, for example, on the insect species, for example. People have been talking about that 40% of insect species have been decimated with chemicals. the fishing industry, the fishes, there are huge changes. Without cooperation, the world, this earth, the mankind has stepped very strongly on this earth, and the attitude which was there in the 50s, for example, ladies and gentlemen, was the fact that there is a limitless supply of things. So therefore, make, manufacture, use, discard. That concept has put tremendous pressure on world resources. Not oil, not in that context, but the tremendous pressure on world resources. The wastage happening, the wastage of human effort which is also there. When you discard a product, for example, after, let me give you an example. In developed societies, it has been estimated that the products people buy, 60% of them are wasted within 2 months, although the product still has use within it. But it is discarded because the charm of the product has gone. The clothes we wear, used and discarded. So the world cannot withstand that kind of exploitation of the world. So people should cooperate, countries should cooperate, and that cooperation is dependent on thinking of the leadership in different countries. For example, between Poland and Pakistan. And I think we are on the right track when you hold a conference, when you talk about the new world order and possibilities of cooperation, because in Quran, God, Allah, says that say that you would like to search for ilm. Go out and search for ilm. Rabbi zidni ilma. And that was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's direction to the Prophet. So when the Quran was being the angel brought the verses of the Quran, so he was very eager to learn them. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't learn them, this is my responsibility, but call for the fact that you want ilm, you want knowledge, and that is something which Pakistan is yearning for. That is something. So the Muslim world has been relatively slow. The good cooperation with Europe happened in the for example, Alhambra in Spain, when there was a renaissance in the Muslim world about ilm. Also happened during the Ottoman reign. But we then saw a decadence in the Muslim world as far as knowledge is concerned. There was some revival, some isolations. When Napoleon conquered Egypt, for example, he brought, I think, 155 scientists with him to Egypt and started showing the European culture and European knowledge to Egypt. When the Meiji Revolution happened in Japan and Admiral Perry parked his ships in Tokyo for the second year, the Meiji Revolution, they decided to go out to Europe. There were 4 delegations which went out. They changed their clothes, they adopted Western clothes, although for the Japanese culture it was very difficult to do. So these delegations put on a hat, put on ties, suits, changed their clothes and lived for 3 or 4 years. One delegation went to France, the other went to Canada, the one went to United States and the other went to England to learn European science and European customs. So Pakistan today wants to become a sponge of knowledge. Whether it is direct, I must thank all the professors who have come here, because it is always important that what we say in Urdu, bil mushafa, or handshaking distance. I think human society will never become totally a zooming society. It will always have the importance of a handshake and coming across people. It will remain important. So I am grateful and thankful to Urdu University for having organized this. But at the same time, a lot of cooperation can take place through exchange of knowledge. There was a time when books were the packaging of knowledge. There was a time, and the Muslim world was slow in that also, because the Gutenberg Bible was published in Gutenberg, close to Poland, and there was no press in the Muslim world for 300 years, until in Istanbul in 1726 a Muslim press was set up. So we have been slow, but after that era, there is a serious dearth of knowledge. There is a possibility in this world today to be able to cooperate, not necessarily the sensitive issue of emigration and immigration can be kept aside, but there's a possibility of cooperation in every field, of people staying in one country and working in another. So what is the testy situation of refugees and absorbing populations from different countries? Pakistan today has had a very big heart, has welcomed the Afghan refugees. Imagine, my friends from Poland, I must mention to you a pride of ours, that 4 million refugees, we hosted 4 million refugees for 40 years in Pakistan. They are still here. I believe that's an important part. However, considering the sensitivities of this issue, I believe a lot of cooperation can happen through communication tools rather than by physical movement of people. And that is where I think Pakistan has to learn a lot from the Western world, and countries like Pakistan and Poland need to cooperate. It is very clear that supranational issues are striking at our institutions to change. Supranational institutions are also affecting communication. For example, the social media, the Twitter, the media revolution has no national borders. For example, the countries are less important. The owner of Twitter is much more important. The countries are reaching out to the owner of Twitter, for example, to bend certain rules. He or she, whoever it is, becomes a judge of the fact that what will become part of the media and what will not. What will be fake news, what will not be fake news. So therefore, that is where I am saying that beyond nations, there are multinationals which have links and strengths in which Pakistan, Poland and other countries looking for a new world order based on some kind of ethics and morality. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep in mind that every nation, almost every nation, has violated international treaties, has violated Geneva Conventions, if it is sure that it will not be detected. Openly, sometimes openly, they've changed their own laws to violate the conventions. They've established for Guantanamo base, people without a country, so that no law can apply to them. So every country has tried to violate whatever agreements have been made. So therefore, what I am saying today, when you talk about the world order, it's a world order which is vested interest-based order. I think the world is looking for an order which is based on some kind of morality. And if morality is a difficult word for us to absorb, maybe a world order based on humanitarian values, based on humanity, based on the world, based on needs of the world for cooperation. So I think this conference can lead the way to thinking minds about what can be brought. Thought is free. Thought does not need a lot of money to be propagated. Thought stands on itself. The philosophy which you can come out, the communications you people deliberate upon, that can stand on its own, small country or big country. The world today, for example, in the IT sector, has shown that a big company or a small company, doesn't matter. If there's a brilliant idea, there's two-man group of people who can make that brilliant idea into something which can affect the world. So it is not important anymore that countries have to lead. It is important that knowledge has to be open, knowledge has to be borderless, knowledge and institutions based on those knowledge. The world is looking for a morality-based world order, which gives importance to all kinds of people without looking at their color of their eyes, without looking at religion or ethnicity, but it requires understanding of human nature much better than what we have today. So I must thank all of you. I must congratulate the Federal Urdu University for having organized this, and I think the future is bright as long as our thinking minds can get together and come to some conclusions. Do let us know. Akbar Zaidi Sahab, we used to visit him looking for economic advice, and since he's out of that sector, you know where Pakistan is today. So it's partly your fault.